Okay, this is my second locals report. I still have no idea what to call this series, so I guess I'll just stick with that for now. I'll just jump right into a deck profile and just talking about stuff. So it was a charity event where it was free entry, but you had to bring canned goods um, to enter to obviously donate to charity. So everybody was kind of bringing casual decks, or at least I thought they would, and everybody kind of ended up doing. And so I ended up bringing Sprite, which is basically my casual deck. I know it can still do some pretty like strong stuff, and you could argue it isn't a casual deck, but this deck has been like out of the meta for so long, and kind of boiled down to kind of this variant or a similar variant for so long that I think it's fine to classify that. So anyway, I'll cover what I played and why I played it first. I was originally going to play Malice, and I'm glad I didn't, just because I'm more practiced with this deck, and I want to practice with Malice in future, and it was a charity event, and it would have felt like a little bit overbearing to bring Malice to a deck, to an event where everybody's bringing casual decks. So anyway, for what I played, for the starters, we have the 3 Beaver, the 3 Swap Frog, 3 Starter, and then the 1 Foolish Burial. So the value of all these cards is they all get you 2 bodies on field. Swap Frog via the Mirror Mage, Beaver by just summoning another body from deck, Starter by going blue into Jet Search as well, which is more value. Like, this is your best starter in the entire deck. And Foolish by sending a Nimble Angler to summon 2 Nimble Beavers from the deck, which does mean you can't really use Sprint anymore, which is a tiny bit annoying, but still. That's kind of the value of these cards, and you're playing 10 of them. The deck size is 45, by the way, so I usually saw one of these, and when I didn't, I saw enough other cards to get 2 level 2s on field, which is what you need to combo. I'll quickly talk about these cards. 1 Mirror Mage and 2 Nimble Angler. These are your kind of bricks that can be normal summoned, so if you open them with a Sprite, it's still full combo, and like basically fine. You can also do cool tricks, because this is Adventure Sprite, by discarding this with some of your Adventure Engine stuff, or with Swap Prog, and then it does still summon 2 bodies from deck, which is nice, because it gains value. But these are kind of necessary engine bricks. I'll cover the really big bricks in a sec, when we get to the end of the main deck. As for like additional extenders, 3 blue, 3 jet, and then we get into the other stuff in the 3 water enchantress and the 3 right. So the value of these 6 is these 2 require an extra body. Water enchantress and right with a normal summon is also full Sprite combo, but you do sacrifice the negate. But the value of these is just gaining a negate at the cost of your normal summon effect, which is usually fine in this deck, and the negate usually insulates your plays, so you're completely fine. And then blue and jet just give you insane value when you draw them, because you can just summon a bunch of bodies, and that's really good as it turns out. I should also talk on the Adventure Engine, why I played it over the Fiendsmith stuff. The reason is I can't afford Fiendsmith stuff. But that, and it was a casual event, and I've never really been able to play the Adventure Engine, and I've always wanted to since it kind of came out. So I finally got the opportunity to do that, which was really cool. But also just like additionally, it has some ups and downs to the Fiendsmith engine. I believe Fiendsmith is still better as an engine than this, but this isn't so much worse to where, as a budget alternative, it's still fine. It can also do cool things by discarding Angler, which Fiendsmith can also do, but to a less extent. So it didn't feel that much worse. It actually felt really good to play. I'm really glad I played the adventure stuff this event. As for kind of additional extenders, and then I guess Fateful counts, these cards act as like, I guess they give you another body. These 2 in the sense of, well, if you don't draw any of the other adventure stuff, you can at least use them to get a free body on field, which you might use to combo. And these 2 in the sense of, they're both like a free summon, but also just negates, which is really, really nice, because they can just sometimes insulate your plays. As for the ratio of like 2 red, 1 carrot, I don't have anything ready to say, because I drew neither of these all event. Although I do have to say, the difference between 2 red, 1 carrot and 1 red, 1 carrot, I don't think is that big. The reason I just like a second red is Flame Extender's nice, and the other sprite monster, which is the Honest, is like not that great, and so I'd rather have a second red. And it just makes the engine a little bit nicer to build. I don't know, it's just a preference thing. It's completely fine not to run it. As for non-engine, 3 tactics, 3 book, well, of Eclipse, 3 imperm, and then 1 of Droplet, and 1 of Called By. So I'll talk about a few of these and some of the funny reasons for these ratios. I'll start with the actual stuff that really kind of paid off, which was not actually the imperm. I don't believe I drew this card that much. I might have drawn it once, and I won that game anyway because I managed to make my full end board with this on top. So it was like, I was winning that game anyway. But Book of Eclipse, I only drew it once, and during that game I won because of it. Not because of it, but it made it winning a lot easier because it was against a, I'll talk about the matchups, but it was against Metalmorph. Like, just the pure Metalmorph deck, which is, you know, obviously very casual. But I just Metalmorphed the board, and then you can't use the traps, which was made it a pretty easy win, I'm going to be honest. So this card felt pretty good to play. Plus, it was initiation in case anybody did bring, like, Ryziol. Then I would at least have, like, an answer in the main deck that I could use if I drew it. And it's a pretty good card, this format, even against Rogue, so I'll probably keep playing it in future. 3 tactics. This card paid off hugely. Every time, on 2 separate occasions, I'll get into matchups in a sec, I attempted the play of just use tactics to steal an Xyz monster after I'd battled with one, and then overlay a Zeus on top of it. It didn't always work out, but just that play was really good, and I really, really like this card. But if I was playing any other deck, I would cut this down to maybe 2, or just, if I was playing some copies of Thrust, maybe just 1. It did feel really strong to play, but only when it really paid off, so I would not play full copies in future, but it felt really good. Okay, I'll talk about these 2. Being brutally honest, this probably should have been 2, if I was to work this, 3 Droplet by cutting a Tactics and the Called By. The Called By, I believe, came up once. It did win me a game because I got Furarost, chose not to Call By it, and instead just gave my opponent a draw, because at that point I already had Griffin Token and 2 Aqua Bodies on field, and I was just like, if I negate the Furarost, it leads them down to 4 cards, which is obviously really, really good, and I lose the Called By. They were on Madolche, which I'll get into why in a sec. But then I am in a bit of a predicament because the only benefit I get is I get like an extra body on field, like an extra interruption, which, if they already have a great hand, isn't going to fix things. While if I give them the single draw and just end on Toad and lose that interruption, I gain Called By, which is arguably a stronger interrupt, because you can Called By the Angeli, and that puts them in a really, really bad position, and there's not much they can do to avoid that case. So I kind of did that, and it did just win me the game anyway, because turns out they couldn't beat with a 5 card, I think 6 card hand in the end. With a 6 card hand, they couldn't beat like 2 negates and a Called By. That was just like too much. But I would probably cut this card maybe in future for more Forbidden Droplets. Now you might have noticed this card is in German. Yes, and why didn't I play more Forbidden Droplets? Because I only own this 1 German copy. Don't ask why. I have no idea why it's in German, but it's really funny, so I am not changing it. As for the bricks, this is pretty standard stuff. Freezing Chains, this. I played all of this because it makes your engine go. As for what I cut, I always kept this card. Nearly always kept this card. I sided it out once, and it did actually matter that game, so I probably shouldn't have done that, but I sided this out always when I was going second, and this I should have sided out always when I was going second. I forgot to, which is really stupid of me, and it didn't ever have a negative consequence because I never drew it, and there was a game where I did search it later, and it did help me win the game, but Starter would have done the exact same thing. So being brutally honest, I do not think I should have kept this card in going first. Going second, I mean. Going first, you keep it in all the time. That's the main. It felt very good, but that's because I was just against Rogue the entire day, so a pretty juiced up Sprite deck will. I'll do side first because there's more interesting stuff to talk about, and extra is just kind of generic. We will get back to this card, but for other going second cards, it was just a Feather Duster, these for back row removal, Cosmic, and Evenly. Evenly felt phenomenal to play. Won me a game. Love this card. Cosmic never came up. I'd probably cut it in future. And these... I drew Feather Duster once, and it helped a lot. So, honestly, I did like these cards. These cards felt good to play. As for the card that didn't, I never sided this in because it's kind of useless. Like, people will play this in main and sometimes in side and Sprite. I think that's a really bad idea. Sprite already struggles to get to game. This doesn't really help your problems, because nearly always when you're going second, you'd rather search a starter just for an additional body to do more things than search this, which just boosts your monster's attack by a bit, which, if it wins you the game, it wins you the game. But in my opinion, any game where you win using this, you can win without this. So I don't think you need to play Gamma Burst. I did because I thought it was good. It honestly wasn't. I never felt a need to side it in, so I'm never really going to play it in future. This card for going first, because it's broken. Never saw it, but still. And then 3 shifters for graveyard decks, which I never really played against. My matchups for context was Sidra, round 1. Round 2 was against Metal Morph, and round 3 was against Madolche. So throughout all of those, I never really had a matchup where siding this in really won me the game, so I didn't. And then 3 Lanciers, just in case I saw Malice. I wasn't expecting it, and I didn't, but just in case, as just like a fallback. Honestly, the main deck felt really good to play. I didn't side too much in and out. The biggest things I sided in were just like these cards, because Even is strong and the back row move was pretty strong. Obviously, for things I change, I'd remove a copy of Gamma Burst and stuff. But I do want to talk about the extra deck real quick, because I have some interesting thoughts. Obviously, I have my token for Nibiru and such, which I did get Nibiru'd once, and I did see it coming, and I played into it, which feels very stupid, but I don't think there was another option, because, yeah, there wasn't another option, but still. Anyway, standard suite of stuff. For the kind of Sprite starters in the extra, we've got these 3 cards, 2 Gigantic, and then the 1 Sprint. I've seen people play multiple Sprints. You don't do that unless you're playing multiple Anglers. 3 Anglers, which doesn't feel like great, so I just keep the ratio of 2 to 1. Feels really good. You always need the second Gigantic. The second Gigantic nearly always comes up. A third one never really does. There was never a game where I went in and was like, I wish I had a third Gigantic. Those games, my main deck just kind of helped me grind anyway, so I was fine with that. As for other stuff, for the going first on board stuff, we've got Toad, Silhouette, IPSP. I'll talk about these cards in a sec. Toad was phenomenal. Whenever I went first and made this, I basically just won the game because it was just impossible to beat, because it just kept coming back with Double Cross, kept negating things, it steals, it summons frogs, it recycles. It kind of just is like a win card in this deck. It's absurdly strong. Silhouette was really good, kind of. It was good, not in the way you'd expect. I made it a couple times, and it mostly actually just came up because it couldn't be destroyed by battle, rather than grabbing the trap. The one time I did grab the trap, my opponent got rid of it, so it was just like, meh. But it did still feel pretty strong just because it couldn't be, like, beaten over. And so I just kept the body, which then helped me later in the game. IP I made once just because it's a generic link that can use tokens, which was very funny. But it's solid if you need this to go into SP rather than Silhouette. And then SP did win me a game. Did not win me a game, I don't believe. Did it? I can't fully remember, but it did help me a lot against the Metamorph game, and is just a strong card in general. Definitely wouldn't consider cutting this. As for other stuff, we have Mannequin, Soul Sweeper. This never came up, but it does have cases where it can. It's a consideration to cut. There's good reason to cut this card, but it depends on your deck and does depend on the meta. If I was ever facing against Ryziol, I think I would have, if it was like a Ryziol deck, I would probably cut this, but this card did come up and was pretty useful, so yeah. Next, Dark was interesting. Dark kind of came up once, and I think I could have probably won a game if I had played with this card better, but it was still pretty strong. I definitely would keep this in. Access Code, quote-unquote, won me a game, but I could have won without it, so this is actually a consideration to cut. The extra deck for this feels kind of tight, but it's actually a lot more fluid than you think. And now for the fun cards. This and this. I never summoned this, but I'd always consider keeping it just because you kind of do want it. This came up a ton, never OTK'd with it, but just a card that where you don't take battle damage and it can just beat into something was so absurdly useful to make the carry. I think I summoned this guy once every match, except... No, I think I genuinely... No, except for... No, I summoned this guy every single match. This guy came up a lot. If you know your local, if you're playing a deck similar to this and you know your locals has a good amount of rogue, do not, under any circumstances, cut this card. This card is absurdly strong. Like, board wiping is just amazing. It does that, and then it has a secret effect, but it's mainly just the fact that it's a board wipe. It works with tactics, stealing Xyz. It's just incredible. It's just such an incredible card. I am now considering, if it's a Malice heavy tournament, like, running this if I'm running lots of tactics. It's not a great idea, but just stealing a detonator, attacking with it, and then just making a big Zeus, and then just sitting on it is just kind of just, like, it's an absurd win con. And then a card that I actually would consider cutting is Typhon. Typhon is really, really good if you know that there's going to be a lot of meta matchups, and is way worse if you expect instead a lot of rogue. It was a rogue tournament. I should have not played this. I ended up playing this. Yeah, it wasn't great. But it is a good card. It is worth playing if you know that you're going to be facing a lot of meta. That was the deck. My matchups were, round 1 was against Cyber Dragon. I won game 1 pretty easily, and game 2 was a very big grind, which is a theme of this tournament. It was really, really fun, and I did end up clutching it out because turns out this deck can just keep on grinding for a while, thanks to the adventure stuff, and swap for, and just being able to recycle waters with Toad. Game 2 was against the Metamorph deck, which ended in a draw because game 1 was... Game 1 was I managed to win, I believe, by barely clutching it out, somehow going second. And game 2 was a loss because I cannot beat over big bodies, which just so happens to include the new Red Eyes monster. So that was that. Was really fun though, very, very grindy, really fun back and forth. And game 3 was against Madolche, where I went second game 1 and lost, even though I did do the cool Steel Zeus play, but then just couldn't recover from it because I lost my board. Game 2, I won because I just set up an Unbreakable Field. And game 3, I opened Evenly Droplet, and so I won that game. That was roughly my tournament. It was really, really fun. I really want to make more of these. I really want to go to more locals and just have a bunch of fun playing more decks. I plan to play a lot of Malice in future. Expect a little bit more Malice content on this channel. And a lot more of these. These are really fun to make. Just for me, just to like look back on them in future. But if you are not me and you are watching this, I do hope you enjoyed me just sitting down and rambling for a while. And I hope to see you again. Plus, it's around Christmas, so have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye.